Now, to seek direction and strategy from God-respected audience, every person in life reaches moments where the path ahead is unhand. We face decisions, challenges, and battles that cannot be solved by human wisdom alone. In such moments, the greatest strength we can have is learning how to seek direction and strategy from God. The first step in seeking direction from God is humility. A person must recognize that human understanding is limited. When we pause, quiet our hearts, and admit that we need divine guidance, we open the door for God to lead us. Pride closes that door, but humility invites wisdom greater than our own. The second step is seeking through prayer and reflection. True guidance often comes when we take time away from noise and distractions. When we sincerely pray and reflect, we align our hearts with God's will. In those quiet moments, clarity begins to form and the right path becomes visible. The third step is trusting the process even when the plan is unexpected. Sometimes the direction we receive may not match our original plans, yet divine strategies are often different from human strategies. What may look unusual or simple can carry extraordinary power when it comes from God. Another important principle is obedience. Guidance only becomes effective when we act on it. Many people ask for direction, but only a few are willing to follow it completely. When we take faithful steps according to what we believe God is showing us, doors begin to open and obstacles start to move. There are moments in life when every person stands at a crossroads. Plans have been made, efforts have been given, and yet the path ahead still feels uncertain. In such moments, human intelligence, experience, and advice may only go so far. True direction often begins when a person turns their heart toward God. The journey of seeking divine direction starts with prayer and humility because guidance from God is not simply discovered through logic or strategy, but through a heart that is willing to listen and learn. Prayer is more than speaking words, it is an act of opening the heart. When a person prays sincerely, they step away from the noise of the world and enter into a moment of honesty with God. In that moment, titles, achievements, and pride lose their importance. What remains is a soul that acknowledges its need for wisdom greater than its own. Prayer allows a person to move beyond their limited perspective and invite divine understanding into their decisions and actions. Humility is the foundation that makes prayer meaningful. Without humility, prayer can become nothing more than a routine or a request for God to approve what we have already decided. True humility means recognizing that our vision is incomplete and that our plans may not always lead us. It requires the courage to admit that even our best ideas may fall short without divine guidance. When a person humbles themselves before God, they position their heart to receive wisdom that goes beyond human reasoning. Human nature often pushes people towards self-reliance. From a young age, individuals are taught to depend on their skills, their education, and their personal strategies. While these things are valuable, they are not always enough to navigate the deeper challenges of life. Situations where experience cannot provide the answer and logic alone cannot reveal the best path forward. It is in these moments that prayer becomes essential because it connects human limitations with divine possibilities. When a person sincerely seeks direction through prayer, they begin to develop a deeper awareness of God's presence in their life. Prayer shifts the focus from controlling circumstances to understanding purpose. Instead of asking only for success or immediate solutions, the heart begins to ask for wisdom, clarity, and alignment with God's way. This shift transforms the way a person approaches decisions. The goal is no longer simply to achieve personal ambitions, but to walk in a direction that carries deeper meaning and purpose. Humility also creates a space where God's voice can be heard more clear. A proud heart is often too full of its own opinions to recognize divine guidance. When people believe they already know everything they need, they rarely pause long enough to listen. Humility, however, quiets the mind and softens the heart. It teaches patience and attentiveness. In that quiet space, new insights often begin to emerge. Ideas become clearer, confusion starts to fade, and the sense of peace begins to guide the next step. Prayer is also a moment of alignment. Life often pulls people in many different directions. Responsibilities, pressures, and expectations can create confusion about what truly matters. Through prayer, a person returns to the center of their purpose. It becomes a time to reflect, to examine motives, and to place ambitions before God. In doing so, the heart begins to separate temporary desires from meaningful goals. But what once seemed urgent may no longer appear as important, while what truly matters begins to stand out with greater clarity. Sincere prayer is not about presenting perfect words or impressive language, it is about honesty. Some of the most powerful prayers are simple expressions of need, uncertainty, and trust. When a person approaches God with authenticity, they remove the barriers that often block spiritual insight. Honesty invites transformation because it allows God to work within the deepest parts of the heart. Instead of pretending to have everything under control, the individual acknowledges their dependence on divine wisdom. Humility also shapes the attitude with which a person waits for direction. Many people approach prayer expecting immediate answers. When solutions do not appear quickly, frustration can grow. However, humility understands that guidance may come in stages. Sometimes the heart must be prepared before the direction is revealed. Waiting becomes part of the process, teaching patience and strengthening faith. In those moments of waiting, a person learns to trust that God's timing carries purpose. Another important aspect of prayer is the way it changes perspective. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming begin to look different when viewed through faith. Problems may still exist, but they no longer appear impossible. Prayer reminds a person that they are not facing life alone. The awareness of divine presence brings courage, hope, and confidence. Instead of being driven by fear or uncertainty, the heart begins to move forward with calm determination. Humility also protects a person from the danger of pride when success eventually arrives. When that is your made, when that is your pain and not the result of their abilities alone. They understand that wisdom and opportunity are gifts that come from God. This awareness encourages gratitude and keeps the heart grounded. Rather than becoming arrogant or self focused, the person remains aware of the source of their guidance and strength. Seeking dear action through prayer also deepens a person's character. It encourages reflection and self examination. As individuals spend time in prayer, they begin to notice areas of their life that require growth or change. Attitudes, habits, and motivations come into clear focus. Humility allows them to accept correction and pursue improvement. Over time, this process shapes a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. Prayer also builds a relationship with God that extends beyond moments of crisis. While many people turn to prayer when they face difficulty, a humble heart learns to seek God consistently. Come. Guidance becomes a daily practice rather than an occasional request. Small decisions, ordinary challenges, and future plans are all placed before God. Through this consistent connection, the individual becomes more sensitive to divine direction in every aspect of life. As this relationship deepens, confidence in personal ability alone, but confidence in God's guidance. Even when the future remains uncertain, the heart finds peace in knowing that it is being led step by step. Faith replaces anxiety, and trust becomes stronger than doubt. This inner stability allows a person to move forward with courage, even when the path requires difficult choices or unexpected changes. Humility also reminds individuals that guidance may sometimes come through unexpected channels. While prayer is a personal conversation with God, wisdom can appear through experiences, lessons, and the insights of others. A humble heart remains open to learning and attentive to the ways God may reveal direction. Instead of dismissing new ideas or perspectives, the individual considers them carefully, recognizing that divine guidance can appear in many forms. The practice of prayer gradually transforms the way a person approaches life. Its decisions are no longer made impulsive, lie or purely based on convenience. Instead, they are approached with thoughtfulness and spiritual awareness, that each step is taken with the understanding that God's wisdom is greater than human plans. This mindset creates a life that is guided not by pressure or impulse, but by purpose and faith. Humility also brings freedom from the burden of trying to control everything. Many people feel overwhelmed because they believe they must solve every problem on their own. Prayer releases that pressure. It allows individuals to place their concerns before God and trust that guidance will come at the right moment. This trust does not remove responsibility, but it replaces fear with hope and determination. Over time, those who consistently seek God through prayer begin to recognize subtle patterns of guidance. Certain choices bring peace while others create inner resistance. Opportunities appear at the right moment and unexpected solutions arise in challenging situations. These experiences strengthen faith and confirm that seeking divine direction truly shapes the course of life. Humility keeps this process genuine. It reminds a person that seeking God is not about proving spiritual strength or appearing righteous in front of others. It is about maintaining a sincere and honest relationship with the Creator. The goal is not perfection, but openness, an ongoing willingness to learn, grow, and follow the path that God reveals. Through prayer and humility, the heart becomes a place where wisdom can grow. Instead of being filled with confusion, fear, or pride, it becomes a space where clarity and faith take root. As individuals continue to seek God sincerely, they discover that guidance is not always a sudden revelation, but often a gradual unfolding of understanding. Step by step, insight replaces uncertainty and purpose becomes clearer. In this way, prayer becomes more than a moment of request. It becomes a journey of transformation. Humility keeps the heart teachable, and sincerity keeps the connection with God alive. As a person continues to seek divine direction, they begin to experience the quiet yet powerful influence of God's wisdom shaping their decisions, strengthening their faith, and guiding them toward a path that carries deeper meaning and purpose. When a person sincerely seeks direction from God, the next step is learning to trust the guidance that is received and having the courage to follow it. Seeking direction is only the beginning of the journey. The real transformation happens when a person chooses to act on that guidance with faith and confidence. Many people pray for direction, yet hesitate when the moment arrives to move forward. Trust is what turns guidance into action and faith into progress. Trusting God's plan often requires letting go of the desire to control every outcome. Human nature prefers certainty and clear explanation, but divine direction does not always arrive with complete details. Sometimes the path becomes clear only one step at a time. In those moments, trust becomes essential. Instead of demanding to see the entire journey, a person learns to take the next step with confidence, believing that the same God who provided the direction will also provide the strength and wisdom needed along the way. There are times when the guidance received from God may seem unexpected or different from personal expectations. People naturally form their own strategies and plans, imagining how success or progress should appear. However, divine wisdom often works in ways that challenge those assumptions. What seems unusual or even difficult at first may carry a deeper purpose. Trust allows a possibility that God's understanding is far greater than human reasoning. Acting on divine guidance requires courage. Faith is not simply believing that God has spoken. It is choosing to move forward even when the path requires effort, sacrifice, or change. There may be moments when doubt appears, when circumstances seem to question the decision that was made. During those times, trust becomes the anchor that keeps a person steady. Instead of turning back in fear, they continue moving forward, remembering the guidance they received in prayer. Trusting God also means believing that every step taken in obedience has value, even when results are not immediately visible. Modern life often encourages quick outcomes and instant success, but divine strategies sometimes unfold gradually. Each act of faith prepares the next stage of the journey. Small decisions, quiet acts of obedience, and patient persistence begin to create a path that leads to greater opportunities and deeper purpose. When individuals choose to follow God's guidance, they begin to experience a different kind of confidence. This confidence is not based on personal ability alone, but on the assurance that their actions are aligned with a higher purpose. Even when challenges arise, they carry a sense of inner peace because they know they are walking in the direction that God has shown them. This peace becomes a source of strength during uncertain moments. Obedience also strengthens faith over time. The more a person follows divine guidance, the more they begin to recognize how God works in their life. That's that once seemed confusing begin to make sense when viewed from a later point in the journey. Opportunities appear at the right moment, solutions arise in unexpected ways, and doors open where none seemed to exist before. These experiences build trust and encourage a deeper commitment to following God's guidance. Following God's guidance also requires patience and pay. Perseverance, not every step will be easy, and not every decision will be understood by others. Sometimes people around us may question the path we have chosen, especially if it does not follow conventional expectations. During those moments, faith reminds us that divine direction is not always designed to satisfy public approval. The most important responsibility is remaining faithful to the guidance that has been received. Trusting God's plan also frees a person from the constant pressure of fear and uncertainty. When individuals rely solely on their own plans, they often feel the burden of making every decision perfectly. The fear of failure can become overwhelming. However, when a person follows God's guidance, that burden begins to lift. They understand that their responsibility is to remain faithful and obedient, while the ultimate outcome rests in God's hands. This trust creates resilience. Challenges may still appear, but they no longer carry the same power to discourage or defeat. Instead of interpreting obstacles as signs to quit, the individual sees them as part of the journey. Faith encourages them to continue moving forward, confident that every step taken in obedience contributes to a greater plan that may not yet be fully visible. As people continue to follow divine guidance, their lives begin to reflect a deeper sense of purpose. Decisions become more intentional, actions become more meaningful, and priorities become clearer. Instead of being driven by temporary desires or external pressures, they are guided by a vision that aligns with God's will. This alignment creates a life that is not only successful in practical terms, but also rich with meaning and fulfillment. Trust and obedience gradually transform the relationship between a person and God. What begins as a simple act of faith grows into a continuous journey of partnership and dependence. Each step forward strengthens the belief that God is actively guiding the path. Over time, this trust becomes a natural part of life, shaping the way decisions are made and challenges are faced. When a person truly trusts and follows the guidance they receive from God, they begin to see how divine strategy unfolds in ways far greater than they could have planned alone. What once appeared uncertain becomes a testimony of faith in action, showing that when people trust God's direction and move forward with courage and test the path before them begins to open with clarity and purpose. As we reflect on the importance of seeking direction from God, one truth becomes clear. Urgency is not simply about knowing where to go, but about becoming the kind of person who is willing to listen, trust, and follow. Life will always present moments of uncertainty, challenges that test our wisdom, and decisions that shape our future. In those moments, human understanding alone may not be enough. That is why turning to God with prayer, humility, and faith becomes one of the most powerful choices a person can make. When we humble ourselves before God, we acknowledge that our vision is limited while His wisdom is limitless. Prayer opens our hearts to divine insight, allowing us to see beyond our fears, doubts, and personal assumptions. It reminds us that we are not walking through life alone, but are guided by a higher purpose that understands the path ahead far better than we do. Direction is only the beginning. True faith appears when we trust the guidance we receive and move forward with courage. Sometimes the path God reveals may seem unexpected or challenging, but when we choose to follow it with obedience and confidence, we begin to witness how divine strategies unfold in ways we could never have planned ourselves. Each step of trust becomes part of a greater journey, leading us toward growth, purpose, and deeper understanding. A life that seeks God's direction is a life filled with clarity and peace. It is not a life without challenges, but it is a life guided by wisdom greater than our own. When prayer shapes our decisions and faith strengthens our actions, we begin to walk a path that reflects both purpose and meaning. So let us learn to seek God sincerely, listen with humble hearts, and trust the direction we receive. We discover that the greatest strategies for life are not created by human plans alone, but are revealed through a relationship with the one who knows the path before us. Thank you.